Suicidal financial distress among women entrepreneurs is on the rise. Suicidal thoughts among women entrepreneurs seem to be on the rise. In the last couple of months, I have found myself amid conversations with women entrepreneurs who have lost a lot of money and are completely at a loss on what to do. Hi, my name is Faustina, spelled F-O-S-T-I-N-A. My last name is Mani, spelled M-A-N-I. I am the Global Trade Engagement Director at Bitter Grains. I'm also a founder of a marketplace called Mothers of Africa Mobile Circle. I believe Africa can feed itself. I believe Africa can profit from agricultural trade. That is why I am championing for an agricultural market revolution that favors Africa. Back to my story. In my most recent conversation at a hospital where one female entrepreneur openly admitted that she was there because she had contemplated suicide a few times. When I asked her why, she simply told me that she owed a lot of money because her business had failed. It turns out the lady was lending money to people for a fee. She had investors whom she got the money from. Then she in turn loaned out the money at her interest. Without going into much details, it turns out she had been conned. She cannot exactly recall how, but before she knew it, she had lost all the money investors had given her. Now she was having to deal with a lot of threatening calls and harassments from her creditors. The money was not the reason for her suicidal thought, but the tormenting phone calls, harassment, and embarrassment from the creditors to everyone she knew, both her family, extended family, friends of friends. I almost laughed when she mentioned that she had maxed out on her level of embarrassment. She no longer felt the shame and had decided to just go out and look for work so that she could repay the money back. She just needed peace of mind to think through on what to do to repay the money back. I was so intrigued that if the money is not the problem, especially if she is confident she could pay it all back, why kill yourself? I asked. Do you have children? She happily said that she had children and they were not small children. My mouth went ahead of me. And I asked her if she realized that most people would probably forget about her within 2 weeks after her burial. I asked her, so what would happen to her children? Why would she allow her children to suffer life without a mother? Especially seeing her husband would probably be showing up at her funeral with his side chick. I was only guessing the side chick part. However, a light bulb lit in her head and she turned around and asked me, by the way, why am I trying to kill myself? I was like, you tell me. She paused for a moment in deep thought. Then I asked her, by the way, how much money is it that you are trying to kill yourself for? I was expecting a figure in the millions. When she told me the amount, I asked her, do you realize that is the value of a used car? It's not even the value of a whole house. Why would you want to kill yourself for a fraction of a house? That is when she told me that it was not the money, but the interest that she had already paid. And the fact that the debt did not seem to decrease. She felt trapped because she knew she could easily clear the whole amount. As a matter of fact, the amount she had paid in interest was more than the loan amount. The problem is she just did not know what to do. She was paralyzed with fear and which kept her in a vicious cycle of depressing thoughts. Then she turned around and asked me what to mention or going before a judge is. I asked her if she even had an agreement with the creditors. She mentioned there was nothing on paper. They kept on changing her payment times with each down payment she made. She was being taken advantage of because she did not know her legal rights, nor did she have any information on business documentation, contracts, and governing law. At that point, I asked her if she could consider going before the court of law, admitting she had messed up, and see if she could present a payment plan to the judge. I did suggest that she seeks legal advice, but much to my surprise, she mentioned her lawyers did not seem to understand her business, and she was worried she could not afford the right lawyers. I advised her to visit the various organizations such as FIDA, which offer legal services pro bono. However, I also suggested that she Googles and begins to educate herself on the court process. I told her there were many videos that could educate her on the court process on YouTube. By the way, do you know what declaring bankruptcy is? I asked. She said no. Well, you are not the first person to go through financial difficulties, was my response. As a matter of fact, do you realize that Donald Trump, T.D. Jakes, Jenga Karume, Julian Kula, Raphael Tuju, and almost all super wealthy Kenyans you know of have been auctioned or have had to declare bankruptcy at one point in their lives? She looked at me and said, no way. Do your homework, I told her. Your problem is ignorance about your current situation. Ignorance is the reason you have handed your power to your creditors. You need to get your power back, and the first place to begin is to get educated on what the law says. You do not need to go to law school. Just Google and find videos that specifically deal with your case. By the way, I am super impressed by the fact that you were able to go out and come up with an investment fund that you could actually give loans out of and earn more money for yourself. Do you realize within you lies a gift or a talent for microfinance, a bank, or a money-related product that is waiting to be birthed in you? What do you mean? She asked. I reminded her of the olive which needs to be crushed so that olive oil can be produced out of the olives. Your current situation is nothing more than a crushing. Your mess is simply nothing more than an opportunity to learn from your mistakes. Pick up some new skills on how to manage large amounts of money. And most important of all, God could be birthing a vision for our financial bank within you. You just need to go learn about banking systems, bankruptcy law, and especially those pertaining to women entrepreneurs. As she pondered and was contemplating, her name was called out. Our time was up. She needed to go see the doctor. But she was no longer sad and confused. She smiled and walked towards the doctor's office. As I watched her walk away, I said a silent prayer for a bank or a microfinance owner. I thank God for the opportunity to speak life to this great African woman in the banking or financial sector. I did not take her name, neither did she have mine. I was simply grateful for having sown a seed of hope to a woman who felt her life was worth nothing. I was also humbled that God had granted me an opportunity to transform the life of an African woman, and hopefully to those who will be reading or listening to this. God bless you. And